Unfortunately, in today's world, although probably always, you hear a lot of stories about layoffs. You hear a lot of stories about companies being laid off. I still think some people feel a stigma about this. So before we dive into the advice part, let's just kind of share that like layoffs happen and they happen to everybody. Daniel, have you been laid off?
Yes, unfortunately, I think twice.
Mhm.
Um, all and I think this will be the consistent theme throughout this conversation is, the reasons for things outside of my control. But it's a myriad of different things. I can remember one company. It was sort of the trifecta of the company wasn't doing well financially. So then they brought in new leadership who wanted to then change the model and the structure of the company and the teams. And it just kind of, domino
Yeah.
effect ticked down, and a large majority of the company was impacted by that. But it all kind of started with the financial impact, then
Hmm.
went through structure, and teams, and how that could evolve pretty quickly is always surprising, but it's just the reality of the situation.
Well, and I think that's the thing that it feels so personal to the person that has been laid off. Of course, you just lost your job, you lost your livelihood, all the things. It's going to feel personal. But so often it's not. It really is a line in the sand conversation, or we have two people doing the same thing, and this person has just been here longer or has different institutional knowledge. That, sometimes I think the stigma is out there is, well, if you were a really great performer, they wouldn't have put you on the chopping block. And that's just not the case. I mean, the time where I got ahead of it, but because I was in HR, I always knew sort of what was coming and I was going to be on the list of layoffs was after an acquisition. And the parent
Mhm.
company had someone just like me. So, of course, the parent company kept their person because they're the parent company. So, and they didn't need two of us. And I totally understood that. But I had also put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that company. I knew how valuable it was. The culture was so special. So it sucked to know that like I was going to end up being on that list, but it wasn't about me. They had two of us and they just didn't need two of us. And so they kept the person they knew because that was who they trusted. They didn't know me from, Adam and Eve at that point.
Yeah, and on my side, and I think you probably experienced this too. It's always the teams that aren't making money for the company, and
Yeah.
especially from the recruiting side. We're one of the first teams that are impacted because if we're dialing it back, we're not hiring anybody. So it is really tough. But if you understand it from sort of the business perspective, it can give you a little bit of peace of mind.